Today I have the honour of speaking with Iseult Honohan, who is Associate Professor Emeritus at the UCD School of Politics and International Relations. And we will chat about Citizenship Matters. Hi Iseult, how are you today?
Hi, I'm great, thanks.
Great, and first question for you today is, where are you located and what's been keeping you sane over the last few months of lockdown?
Well, like most people, I'm at home. That's in Dublin, not very far from UCD. And I depend on walks in the neighbourhood, particularly now that all the trees are bursting into bud and flowers. And I also am getting more practice at my German than I thought I would before my trip to Austria, my holiday trip to Austria, which has been postponed twice.
Very good. So that's unfortunate, but hopefully soon. Moving on to your title, Citizenship Matters. Can you please tell our audience about this?
Yeah, citizenship is important because it provides a status that is secure, gives people security of residence and re-entry to their states, gives them protection when they're abroad, gives them national voting rights, and often more secure access to other rights like health and education, as well as full symbolic membership of a country. Now, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says everyone has a right to citizenship, but they don't say which citizenship everybody has a right to, and states all have rights to determine their own membership. So it's a really difficult question about how citizenship should be allocated. Citizenship regimes can make people stateless or just permanent aliens in their own countries. So this is an important area to study. Citizenship laws haven't been particularly easy to access. They're often difficult to interpret and to evaluate. And research has often focused on a very small number of countries in the global north. So there's two aspects to my work. First of all, as a normative political theorist, I examine the possible justifications for awarding or revoking citizenship in a specific country. And this is important because liberal and democratic theory hasn't got a quick and simple answer about how citizenship should be awarded. And there's two areas that I look at which have been less considered than naturalization in citizenship up to now. The first is birthright citizenship, the way most people get their citizenship, whether through their parents or the territory they're born in, and the revocation of citizenship, which used to be marginal, but which states are beginning to either exercise or expand their powers to revoke citizenship now. So this is a matter of real interest and importance. Now, the second aspect of my work is more applied, and that involves critically examining the laws and practices found in contemporary states and participating in collaborative research in the GLOBALCIT Citizenship Observatory that brings these into a systematic comparative frame and makes publicly available global citizenship law data, analysis, and indicators broadly. And in my case, specifically, I'm involved with indicators on birthright mostly.
Okay, and I'm sure our audience will have a lot of questions about your answer there. So please do remember, type your questions by the chat function at the bottom of the screen. So Iseult, has the pandemic provided any unexpected opportunities to you in your research?
Well, I suppose the most obvious one is the fact that being grounded here in Dublin and some other things having been delayed or stopped has given me the opportunity to go back and do the historical work that I wanted to do and that we wanted to do in GLOBALCIT, to track back the history of the development of different forms of citizenship, which has been written in outline, but to get the detailed data, just as we have looked in precise detail on the current provisions in citizenship law, we need now to get a historical series that will allow us to check trends and developments in citizenship law. And this involves extracting a lot of quite difficult to get historical data, but thankfully a lot of it is available online. And I've been able to make progress with that because I'm stuck here at my desk.
So some good points there. So at UCD Discovery, we're incredibly passionate about interdisciplinarity and interdisciplinary research. So how important is interdisciplinary research to your field?
Well, it's extremely important. I mean, citizenship is a very complex concept. It's got a legal dimension, it's got a social dimension, it's got a political dimension, and so on. And even the study of citizenship laws in the GLOBALCIT project that I'm involved in, it involves lawyers who tell you what the law is and interpret it, political scientists who want to do the comparative work and turn some quantitative work and so on, political theorists who, along with the lawyers, examine the normative underpinnings of the law, and also sociologists, historians, and others. I've worked with psychologists and sociologists, and so it's an extremely interdisciplinary matter, because it's not just a matter of what the law is, but how the apparently same law can operate in different countries because of the social and political context is really important to understand. So interdisciplinarity is absolutely central to the work we do in GLOBALCIT.
Fantastic. And there are so many questions coming in for you. So we'll kick off already. So here's one. Should citizenship be tied to residence in the country?
Well, I think residence is a very good proxy for the sorts of things you'd want to base citizenship on. Is a person, an actively interdependent with the other members of the society? And do they face the same difficulties because they're subject to the same authority? So I think that residence, if it's not the basic ground, it's a really significant ground why people should be members. If a person is born in the country and then leaves very soon, they may not have significant ties with the country. Whereas a person who wasn't born in the country but has come to live in the country then can become much more closely connected. So as a broad proxy for connection with the society and subordination to the government that makes people potentially citizens who want to control that government and should have the power to control that government collectively, I think it's important. It's not the only thing, but it's important.
Okay, and along those lines, so so this idea of fast track citizenship for some members of the society, for example, COVID has brought to the fore this issue for healthcare workers. I don't know if you've anything kind of to say about that.
Well, in terms of the fast track for healthcare workers, I think what's being proposed is something really in the realm of administrative procedures. The problem is that many of these people have applied for citizenship and will qualify for citizenship, but that the whole naturalization process was held up, first of all, because of a High Court judgment which froze the whole procedures until that was cleared. And that was solved just before COVID came. Then when COVID came, you couldn't hold citizenship ceremonies. So that again froze the whole procedures. Now, since January, they're doing declarations of loyalty virtually or something instead of the citizenship ceremony. So the process has begun again. And I think the healthcare workers are moving through. Anybody who's been in the pipeline a long time is moving through. Whether particular sorts of people should be given preference in access to citizenship is a different question. And there are some countries that have, sort of genius provisions whereby if you have done something special, and notoriously, of course, or famously, often if you can contribute to the football team, you can sometimes be fast-tracked into citizenship. So it's not clear that it's necessarily altogether a good thing or a bad thing. But I think in the case of the healthcare workers, it was an administrative problem that definitely should be overcome. And the fact that people have come to society, they've lived in the society, they've contributed to the society, all make, again, that proxy for membership of the society.
Okay, so we have so many questions, Iseult, coming in for you, but here's a very interesting one. Why did Ireland revoke citizenship by birth in the referendum in 2004? What factors led to this decision?
Well, yes, so interestingly, after having made citizenship by birth on the island constitutional entitlement after the Good Friday Agreement in 1998, by 2004, not so very long after, this was being restricted. And there are different reasons that people give. I mean, definitely, in the public imagination, this was connected very closely with the immigration pressures that people seemed to think were coming to Ireland. And it was certainly influenced by that. The ostensible reason was that people were coming to Ireland to give birth to babies in order to acquire citizenship of the European Union. Not even Ireland in particular, but the European Union. So that the famous Chen case was a woman who came to Belfast to give birth to a child because that would allow the child to have EU citizenship and grant them residence in the UK. So it was felt, first of all, maybe it was a devaluation of citizenship. It was making accidental births in the country give rise to citizenship. I think one of the reasons that may have affected politicians in particular also was the idea that it was affecting European Union citizenship, and that it wasn't just Irish citizenship, but European Union citizenship. This is a factor that's come in recently also with some European countries offering citizenship by investment, that the rest of the European countries are not happy about this, because if they sell their citizenship, then it becomes possible for the people to go anywhere, and they might be seen as devaluing EU citizenship. So some people have said, well, this is a racist referendum. I'm not sure that it was a racist referendum. I think it was. I think there was certainly some people voted in a way that was hostile to migrants. Others were swayed by the arguments about accidental births and by the EU issues and so forth. It's a complex question. I'm not sure myself that it was the right decision to take, but that's what happened.
Okay. So lots of questions, Iseult. Do you think the original concept of citizenship used in antiquity will ever return? Or do you think there might be other changes in how it is defined in the future?
Okay, well, I think the person who's asked this question is thinking about the concept of citizenship as active participation in the deliberations of the society, which is a bit different from the concept of legal citizenship we're talking about today. But I mean, I would say the idea of everybody participating in politics directly is very attractive in many ways. Now, some people have claimed that it's not possible in modern society, too large, too diverse, and that's why we have representative government and so on and so forth. But I do think that the introduction of the citizens' assemblies that we've had in Ireland, that are seen all over the world as examples, are really interesting ways in which people can become more active participators in their own government. And there's an awful lot to be said for those in many different dimensions that we don't have time to go into today, probably. But so we can't go back. You can't go back in history, but you can draw on certain things in history which may or may not have to change in the modern context. But I certainly am one of those who would like to see more deliberative democracy, more citizenship participation in contemporary society.
Couldn't agree more with you. So here's another one for you. Is Ireland's citizenship process unusually costly or paperwork heavy?
So this is talking about naturalization, I think. Ireland's naturalization process is similar to many other countries. On the front of cost, vis-a-vis other European countries, it is expensive. It is maybe up to 3 times more expensive as some other European countries in terms of the fee that you have to pay. So it is expensive. It's on the expensive end. In terms of the onerous requirements, though, I mean, in terms of the time put in, 5 of the previous 8 years is not particularly long. Some countries require up to 15 years and so forth, and that's in Europe only. Others in other places require 40 years, not many, but some. The other requirements in terms of paperwork, they are reasonably substantial, but I think they're probably not that onerous compared with other places. And one of the big differences between Ireland and some European countries in recent years is we don't have a test. We don't have a language test or a history test or a test of civic knowledge and so forth. And that seems to me probably quite reasonable, that language tests, at least ones that people can stop people from being able to be citizens, are not necessarily a good idea. It would be great if people took language courses so they could become part of society more easily, perhaps, and if the state would provide these. But to have a test that could actually exclude you from citizenship when you met all the other requirements doesn't necessarily seem so desirable. So countries vary a lot, and I think the main issue that people have seen about the Irish process is the cost. Otherwise, I don't think it's particularly onerous. There is one other point which is important, which is that there is a test of good character. And that also seems like a matter where a certain amount of discretion would enter into how the administration of the process happens. And it might be important that the test of good character would be more precisely defined to avoid that.
Okay, lots of questions, Iseult, and we're running out of time. So some quick fire ones for you. Irish citizens abroad, electoral rights anytime soon?
Well, there have been developments on this front. I think one of the citizens' assemblies voted in favour of giving votes in presidential elections to Irish citizens abroad. I know that there is currently a publication called Citizenship Papers of a group of people. There's people who have been trying to promote the idea of voting from abroad, and I believe that a poll in the country indicated that most people were in favour of this. I don't know whether it will happen very soon. I think it is a very complex matter for Ireland because of the number of citizens who are living abroad and who may not have as close connections with the country as those who are resident in it. Because you have to think about the way of defining the relationship between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. I mean, I think if there is a will to do it, it will be done. But there are complex issues to be worked out about how it should be done.
Okay, and very quickly, we're completely out of time, but I just thought maybe 2 ways in which people lose their citizenships. Just an example of maybe 2, because we've completely out of time.
You can lose your citizenship if you have been fraudulent in the basis of your acquiring it. Of course, this only applies to people who have naturalized. And this is the one case in which the international law allows the state to make somebody stateless by taking away the citizenship that they got fraudulently when they may have given up their other citizenship. And the other way, of course, which has become very prominent in recent times, is on the basis of disloyalty or terrorism and so on. Okay. Seen the Shamima Begum case in the UK, and this kind of ground has been just expanding in its use by states. But Britain particularly has used it more than other European states in order to take citizenship from people. And again, this is controversial because it applies only to people who have another citizenship, because they don't want to make people stateless, which means that it discriminates usually against those who naturalized or who have another citizenship for other reasons. And there are other complexities about this issue too, but this is something that is really a growing area.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I could speak to you all day, Iseult. Unfortunately, we are completely out of time. So sincere apologies to those of you whose questions I did not get to. I wanted to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to Iseult. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely fascinating discussion today. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining in. You can sign up for our series at zoomforthought.ie, where you can check out our list of upcoming speakers. Thank you so much, everyone, and see you all very soon on Zoom for Thought. Thank you. Thanks again, Iseult.